Is Iraq independent? Is Iraq sovereign? Iraq today is a colony of the USA. This is the country that occupies other countries' territories. For how long have they been there? Been in Guantanamo, on Cuban soil? A small island, the whole country of the USA, a huge territory, they still go and grab a small territory, not very far away from its own country, from its own coast. They have been occupying it for how many years?
Several decades.
The Cubans have been crying, give us our land. The USA does not respect the territory. Can really the USA claim Guantanamo to be their territory?
Right.
You can understand the same behavior in Taiwan. Same behavior. If today China or Russia went and did the same in Hawaii, what the USA is doing with Taiwan, would the USA accept it? They say, do unto others as you would like them to do unto you. Does the USA do unto others as it would like them to do on itself?
This is an interesting perspective of the point here. You mentioned about the equality among sovereign nations. That's an exercise of democracy, based on equal footing and expressing one's wish or one's needs or demands equally in the international community. Do you think there's enough democracy in terms of that respect?
If you don't respect the territories of other people, those territories are occupied by human beings. How can you respect human beings when you don't respect the territories which they occupy? How can you respect a human being when you don't respect the privacy of their home, the dignity of their home? A homeland is something very important to any human being. Every human being on this planet has a homeland. The homeland is their house. It's their home. That's why it's called homeland. You don't just get into somebody's house. You don't just get into somebody's country and interfere. If you don't respect the sovereignty of a territory, you cannot respect the human being who lives in that territory. You cannot claim to be committed to their democratic rights. You cannot claim to be committed to their human rights. What are human rights without a homeland? What are human rights or democracy without sovereignty? When your rights can be trampled on, when your leaders can be toppled anytime, when your leaders can be killed anytime. Look at what they did to Saddam Hussein. Look what they did to Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. Look at what they do to other people's leaders. Look even at the attitude, the arrogance towards other people. They never respect the leaders of other countries.
Interesting point you mentioned about respect for sovereignty. Part of the justification for the U.S. invasion of Iraq is to plant the seed of democracy in the Middle East, in addition to the so-called non-existent weapons of mass destruction. Is there a full-fledged democracy in Iraq now?
We have 20 years. Iraq today is ungovernable. It's a failed state. Since the murder of Muammar Gaddafi, is Libya today more democratic since 2011? Is Libya today more organized? Is Libya today more stable? It's a failed state. Wherever they have been, there are problems. Have they brought peace and stability and democracy and respect for human rights to Syria? Without the intervention of the Russians, where would Syria be today? They would have overrun that people. How many countries has the USA toppled? How many coup d'etats have they carried out? How many assassinations of leaders of other countries have they carried out? How many citizens of other countries have they killed? How many citizens of other countries have they arrested and detained and released without charges?
Well, in addition to the lack of respect for sovereignty or abuse of human rights, what about the record of the human rights record inside the USA?
Look at the treatment of black people.
George Floyd?
Yes. And when did black people start voting in America? The USA became independent in 1776. When did black people who were taken there against their will, when were they given the right to vote? It's not very long ago. Can you claim equal rights for black people in America? Go to American jails today. The majority of the inmates are black people. In a country where the blacks are a minority, but in prison they're the majority. Why? Are black people generally bad people? Is there something that can be done about that?
It's more than a human rights issue, it's a racism.
Yes, they're racist. Part of the hatred for China is racism. They cannot accept that a country that is non-white can surpass them economically and in so many areas of human achievements, of human endeavor. They can't accept that. But it is happening, it's unstoppable.
Human rights, it seems also is a bit controversial sometimes when it comes to the definition. For example, some countries or some people would stress the fundamental rights to access to clean water, health, decent living standard, etc. Others, mostly Western nations, they would stress very much about the political rights, like the rights to casting a ballot or voting in the procedure, the procedure of practicing democracy. What's your point?
When people go to vote, who do they vote for? Do they vote for themselves? Do they vote for other people? When it comes to other rights like access to clean water, access to food, who do they feed? Do they feed themselves? Do they put water in their own mouths or in the other person's mouths? They care about voting because those poor people do not vote for themselves, they vote for them. They don't set a political agenda for themselves, they follow an agenda set for them. When it comes to the things that really matter, to food, to water and other things, it's about those individuals. So they don't care about those individuals. When a black person votes in America, who is he voting for? When a black person is eating in America, who is he eating for? In whose mouth does he put food? He's not putting food in Biden's mouth. But when it comes to vote, he's voting for Biden. So the vote matters because it's going to Biden. The food doesn't matter because it's going into that poor black person's mouth.
Globally, obviously there are differences in terms of democracy, but then if you look at, for example, the United States in 2021, they hosted the first democracy summit, and they do it again at the end of March, obviously. So some people say the US is attempting to use democracy as a tool, if not a weapon, to divide the world, to advance their, let's say, geostrategy, to contain the rise of China. They divided the world as democracy versus autocracy, and labeling countries as autocracy, authoritarian instead of democratic ones. How do you make of that?
They don't hide their intentions. That's the goodness with them. They say it very clearly. It's either you are with us or not with us. What does it mean to be with them? To be with them means to do their will, to live according to their will, to their dictates. When they say jump, you jump, then you're with them. If you don't, you are not with them. These summits are there to divide the world between those who they call dictatorships, who are not with them, and those who they call democracies, who are with them. If you are with them, you are not a dictator, even if you are one. We have seen this in Africa. We had Mobutu Sese Seko in Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of Congo. For how long did they sustain him? Mobutu had no elections. Mobutu squandered the resources of his country. He was still there dying. It didn't matter. They had the apartheid regime in South Africa. They were their friends. Was apartheid South Africa democratic? They had the white minority racist regime in Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe. They were their friends. They supported them. Was that a democratic regime? Was there a democratic dispensation in Rhodesia? They supported Pinochet in Chile, who toppled an elected government with their assistance. He was working for them. Did they care that Pinochet killed so many people? Did they try Pinochet for violation of human rights? For mass murders? What did they do with in Indonesia, with Suharto? How many communists were killed? Almost 2 million communists killed in Indonesia. Have the Americans raised the banner of human rights? Has anybody been arrested for genocide? No. How many people did they kill in Vietnam? How many? Has anyone been tried for the murders in Vietnam?
Or the bombing of Nord Stream pipelines?
Yes. What is worse terrorism than that? Keeping old and young and children in Europe dying of cold? They do that.
Recently, the Chinese side proposed this global civilization initiative, calling for cooperation and coordination among different civilizations, while stressing the fact that there are a variety of civilizations around the world. What do you make of that?
The concept itself of global civilization initiative, it shows the care, the respect for other people. Yes, we are on the same planet, but we have been living differently in various parts of this planet for centuries. And we are at different stages of our own development. A superiority complex leads to many problems. When you want to make other people feel they are inferior to you, it's not a path to a peaceful world. So you can see the clarity of President Xi, of the CPC, in terms of the future of this world. You cannot build a future world that is peaceful, that is fair, that is just, that is humane, without respect for others. And here we are talking about maximum respect for others.
Equality and respect.
Yes. We are diverse. It's not by accident that we have so many languages, we have so many cultures, we have so many traditions on this planet. Even in songs, we sing so many different songs. Even in dances, we have so many different dances. Are they in conflict with each other? If you dance different from the way I dance, is there a conflict? If you sing a different song from the one I sing,
just natural.
Is it different? Doesn't that add to the beauty? They say in the Garden of Eden, there were so many different plants, so many different flowers, but they existed in harmony with each other. They added to the beauty of the Garden of Eden. If in nature's creation, things were ordered that way, who are we not to accept that diversity?
Harmony in diversity.
Yes. Unity in diversity is needed. Even a song. That's why in a choir you don't have just one voice. You cannot create a symphony with one voice. You cannot create a melody with one voice. You need more voices to create a nice symphony, a nice melody.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you very much.